Concerts at the Crane, the Essex Piano Trio. They will be performing at the Thomas Crane Public Library on Sunday, November 10th from 3 to 4 p.m. You are in luck because we do have the trio here. Actually, welcome back to Quincy Access Television, because you have been here a few times in the past. And let me take this opportunity to say that I'm looking forward to this concert on November 10th. Such great musicianship, and certainly the audience, based on previous performances, loves the performance. So kudos to the three of you. We should mention for the folks at home that David Cabral is on cello, Beverly Saul is on piano, and Ashley Offred is on violin. The Essex Piano Trio. Before we get to the trio itself, let's back up and talk about each one of you as individual musicians. So David?
Thanks for having us. We're happy to be here. So yes, as you mentioned, I'm the cellist of the trio. I play multiple instruments, but cello is my main instrument. But I don't make my living as a full-time musician. I work in medicine at Boston Medical Center in pediatric cardiology. But that job allows me to fulfill which is my greatest love, which is chamber music.
Beverly?
Well, I've been a full-time collegiate career person of one sort or another, always in music as part of what I did. Sometimes as an adjunct professor, sometimes doing full-time stuff. But always a part of that has been accompanying and collaborative work. So I've played for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of singers and instrumentalists, both string and wind players. So that's just been a great part of my life, and I love it.
And Ashley?
Yeah, I come at it from a different background as well. I have a private studio where I have students from the age of 4 up to 83. And then I also do what we like to call freelance work, a lot of orchestra work, a lot of driving, pay taxes in 4 different states.
Well, which you don't enjoy, I'm sure. But, I'm just going to talk about something you just mentioned. You have students great age range. So with that said, folks can learn a musical instrument at any age.
Of course, and it's so good for your brain. And I hear that a lot from all of the ages as well. It helps with your concentration, and not just an appreciation for when you come to a concert and having a greater understanding for what it is we do. I recently had a student say that who's in his mid-70s, and he said he came to piano not being able to read any music, so we've been doing piano lessons, and he watched a recent concert of ours and had so much more appreciation. He's like, I actually understand what's happening now. And I actually heard him whispering to his wife in the middle of the concert, oh, that's what she was doing with her foot.
Well, it's interesting because at the concerts that I've attended, folks will come up to you after the concert and chat about the concert, about the music that was being played.
And we love that.
Talk about the trio, and how did the Essex Piano Trio come to be?
Wow. It's been 8 years, right? And I think it started, Bev and I met separately doing a faculty concert at Salem State.
With Mary Jo Grenfell.
With Mary Jo Grenfell. We played actually Beethoven.
Yeah.
And then we became friends and wanted to continue playing together. I met Ashley separately though, playing chamber music. And I think we all just decided one day, it was for a specific concert that we got together as a trio.
I think we just read.
Was that what it was?
Yeah.
It's been so long, I forgot.
Well, we'll talk about the, I suppose, lack of a better word, the magic. Like, we had talked about this kind of prior to the interview, that you can have 3 talented musicians that sound great individually that just don't come together as a group or as a trio. How did the Essex Piano Trio come together as a trio and get that sound that I guess the sum is equal to the parts?
I think it all has to it lines up in different ways. Chemistry is a super important thing. We all have to enjoy playing with each other. And our common goal and a common a shared love for the same kind of music and the same passion for it, and and then just logistics about being able to rehearse regularly and those kinds of things. It all just lined up for the three of us, and we just really, something special happened when we found each other.
That was important. The chemistry is really important. But the thing that has made this so special for me is the willingness that both of you have to work on a piece until it really works. We've all done gigs where you go in at the last minute, you learned it, you wing in a prayer and you get through it because that's what you're being paid to do, or you've got too many concerts on the agenda. But when you really can sit down and let music soak into you, talk about how you're bowing, how you're tuning, how we're doing things together, that's what's made this special. And we can fight about it. We can criticize one another in a safe space and know that we'll still love one another when we're done.
Well, that's important too. That sort of open and honest discussion or criticism is never interpreted as anything personal. We know that whenever someone mentions, can you do that differently, or you're playing a little too loudly, or whatever it may be, it's always from a place of respect and love.
And I snarl first and then I do it.
Well, it's funny because we're talking about a conversation among the trio. So let's jump now to what all of your concerts have in common. It's a conversation among friends. Explain that to me.
Well, we came at that via a picture that I had found in an old calendar with this wonderful trio. It looks Picasso-ish, doesn't it? It's an American artist named Hilda Husick. I'd never heard of her, but this is her etching. And beneath that picture in the calendar was the statement about the music being a conversation among friends by a woman named Catherine Bowen, a biographer. And I thought, wow, that's what we're doing. And so it is among friends, it's among us. And then if we cannot engage the audience as our friends as well, it's not worth doing because we haven't shared the music in the way that we want to.
So with that said, Ashley, I'm going to talk about your audience as not so much being listeners as being participants.
Yeah, I think that, excuse me, breaking down that fourth wall is really important for us too. Coming at it from a teacher, it's really important for me, for our audience to get an idea that maybe Beethoven is one of our friends in the room with us too. He's not just this old, dead, white German. He's somebody who's here and he's always finding joy in his music, despite this struggle he always had that we can certainly relate with. All of us have struggled at one point. But just seeing him and feeling him more as a person, and then he's also having a conversation with the audience, I think that helps break it down. And also making sure that they feel like they can talk to us. We're not going to run away afterward. Chamber music is made to be in a small room and in front of a small audience, so we welcome that.
And we're talking about Beethoven because the program is all Beethoven on November 10th. It's Beethoven early and late. So who would like to address the repertoire?
Okay. Pre-pandemic, we had hoped to come and play for you the Opus 1 trios, 3 of Beethoven, written when he was almost 25 years old. And he played the first performance of all 3 of them in Vienna with Maestro Haydn in the audience. Mozart was dead already, but they were the predecessors, for the piano trio. But for him to play for that illustrious audience and be received so well as a young man with something to say was pretty special. And so we started with those, and during the pandemic, they kept us sane.
We recorded all of them.
We recorded all of them during the pandemic. I think some of them are still on our website, whether they were ready to be or not, but they're there. But we did the Opus 1, and then early in our, Dave tells me, and actually it was really our first year, we played the Archduke, Opus 97, which was probably kind of dumb, but that's okay. We didn't know any better. And what a wonderful piece it is, and how great it has been to have that piece grow and just become part of the fabric of our being. And so the masterpiece, the far as I'm concerned, one of the best pieces ever written for piano trio. And then we're closing this concert with a beautiful little, almost addendum that he wrote 2 or 3 years later for a birthday present for a little 10-year-old girl of a friend, a friend of his. And I don't know if the 10-year-old was supposed to play it or not, but it's not that easy. But it's so sweet and so beautiful.
Well, with that said, it's so interesting where creativity comes from, where it is born, where this piece was born. It was born as a birthday gift for a child. And that can probably be said not only with music, but certainly art that hangs on a gallery wall as well. It's that inspiration.
Yeah.
Where did it come from? Ashley, when you were talking about feeling the composer when you play, and in this case, Beethoven, people will say, well, classical pieces, note for note, they're written down, unlike jazz where there is improvisation. But that's not totally true. Its interpretation can still be made in the classical realm as well.
Absolutely. I mean, Beethoven died in 1828. We have no recordings of his music. We don't know what he sounded like playing his music. And also our instruments are modern versions of what he had. So for example, our strings are made of metal and nylon, and his strings were made of gut. And in the piano is very different as well. It didn't have the ability to sustain notes as well. So in line of that, also just how we write down music has changed a lot. It's evolved. So there's not as much detail in Beethoven's music. So we get to play within that. The metronome, which helps us know how fast to play, was also invented during Beethoven's lifetime.
Was it?
It was. And so even when he writes on his music about how fast he wants it, we're also interpreting. If he says cheerful, what does that mean? How
Right.
fast is that? So that's part of the adventure too.
And I guess for those that are attending or participating in this concert, what would you like them to experience when they come hear you play?
I would like them to leave feeling like they had a gift of something that happened in that hour. That somehow the music was able to touch them. And the only way that's going to happen if they've come in knowing nothing about music, if they're brand new, and many of our audiences are, it's a mix. But we always want everybody to feel welcome, to not be afraid of this piece of paper that has all these big words that they may not know and would be embarrassed to ask. But to be given permission to think this is beautiful, this is fun, this is just something you can laugh about because there's that joy and that wonder in it. So we want them to leave feeling like they've discovered something wonderful in you.
And we talked about folks after a performance coming up and chatting with you. But we should also mention that during the performance, you speak as well. So you speak obviously through the notes that you play, but you also talk about the pieces.
Just to set the scene. I mean, to know that Beethoven, for that very first piece we're going to play, the composer himself played for a salon in Vienna, at 25 years old, and it was a big deal. It launched his career in many ways. So to know that, and then to know how much agony he had been through before he arrived at Opus 97, when he was ill, he had lost his hearing fairly early on, and it got worse and worse and worse. There are critics who report that he tried to play one performance of the Archduke, and it was a pitiful disaster because he couldn't hear the string players, and he was just pounding and trying to get by. It had to be heartbreaking. The critic was heartbroken saying that about the master, and yet there is such joy in that piece of music. He comes out of this prayerful movement, the third movement, where it's just the most beautiful set of variations. It's a prayer, and all of a sudden, damn, he just takes off like a bat out of hell, and there's this wonderful excursion to the end, just flying, and it just feels happy.
We should mention that you will cover 2 decades of Beethoven's music, correct?
In just under an hour. Don't panic.
Well, I want to thank you. This interview is certainly fantastic. Anytime you come into the studios, I certainly welcome the chat. And look forward to the performance. We do have a piece that was recorded earlier that folks will get to experience as we close this interview. But David, thank you for
Thank
joining
you.
me, and Beverly, always a pleasure. Ashley, same.
Thank you.
And look forward to the performance. Thank you so much.